Hey, this is Christian Hill, Art Appreciation Fall 2018, Section 4. And for my major assignment 2, I chose to explore abstract expressionism and Mark Rothko. All right, and to understand abstract expressionism, you have to understand the background of it. So, during this time, there was the Great Depression. That meant a lot of people didn't have money, but it also meant that the government was funding a lot of projects. So, one thing that we'll come back to is there's the Works Project Administration, where Mark Rothko and a bunch of other artists came together. Like they got funded to make art. During this time, there was also the World Wars, which pushed artists to express themselves in ways that, other than like representing real life, they wanted to express the emotions underneath of it, and also this put them into contact with other nations. And this is a big thing that helped abstract expressionism move forward also. And that with the world wars comes exposure to European modernism. There was there was museums opening up with more and more European avant-garde art that exposed young American artists to the new type of art that Europe was doing. So, abstract expressionism is sort of hard to explain. Encyclopedia Britannica had the most in-depth description I could find, and they said it's the term used to describe a broad movement in American painting that began in the late 1940s and became a dominant trend in Western painting during the 1950s. This doesn't really describe what exactly the paintings were. I found another article by David Anfam on Oxford Art Online. It said it is the works of the generation of artists in New York in the 40s and 50s, linked by varying degrees of abstraction and used to express strong emotional content. Again, this doesn't really say much about the actual paintings. Like Cubism, I looked up, it was art defined by its use of geometric shapes and stuff like that. And this doesn't really have that, but it's just a general broad style used by the artist in the 40s and 50s. The paintings that are classified as abstract expressionism or expressionist paintings, they share a broad characteristic. They share broad characteristics. They share broad characteristics such as being abstract, meaning they depict something that doesn't necessarily exist in real life, and they use the physical characteristics of paint to express emotion. Um, Eventually, there became two distinct styles of abstract expressionist paintings. Action painting, which is characterized by loose, rapid, dynamic, or forceful handling of paint and sweeping brushstrokes, and in techniques partially dictated by chance, such as dripping or spilling the paint directly onto the canvas. These types of things were practiced by Pollock, who dripped his paint onto large canvases, or de Kooning, whose picture is right here, who used vigorous and expressive brushstrokes to build up richly colored and textured images. The other style, known as color field paintings, characterized by large scale canvases dominated by flat expanses of color and having minimum surface details, is where the artist Mark Rothko comes in. Marcus Rothkowitz, 20, born the 25th of September in 1903 in, I'm gonna mess up this name, Dvinsk, Russia, which is now Latvia, moved to the U.S. in 1913. As a youth in Portland, Rothko excelled academically and pursued interests in literature, music, and social studies. From 1921 to 1923, he attended Yale University on a scholarship, but left in his third year without graduating. He moved to New York, where he attended a few courses at the Art Students League, including a painting class with Max Weber, and he also taught drawing classes for money. On the side, Rothko educated himself by attending exhibitions and visiting the studios of artists such as Milton Avery, whose paintings of simplified forms and flat areas of color suggested possibilities for Rothko's own work. Rothko's earliest pictures from the mid to late 20s consist of expressionist landscapes, genre scenes, still lifes, and bathers. One example of that is Mark Rothko entrance to Subway. There was a nice quote that I feel like sums up the latter half of Mark Rothko's life, and it says the progression of well, it's by Mark Rothko, and it says the progression of a painter's work will be towards clarity, towards the elimination of all obstacles between the painter and the idea, and between the idea and the observer. And right here is a picture of some of his later work. This pretty much sums up exactly what happened in Mark's life. In 1940, he changed his name from Marcus Rothkowitz to Mark Rothko, which is what he's known as now. He abandoned using references to human figures to more directly transfer the emotions of the pieces. So, as you saw before in the previous slide, there was just blocks of color, and that's how he got his message across. And over time, he devised a radical solution to simplify the forms in his paintings to create soft, luminous rectangles that appear to float on stained canvases. The next three slides are just pictures of his work, and I, I believe they're pretty easy to tell. I'll show you. So number one, these are from different periods of his life, by the way. This is some of his first work into the color block and simplifying his work all the way down to just blocks of color on canvases. And the way you could tell this is a Rothko is just like I said by the color blocks. I feel like as we get further on, well, into the next slide, you'll see exactly how this is just like what he does. But this is the origin of it. Like this is from 1948 when he just got into doing the rectangles on canvases. The next one right here is called slate blue and brown on plum. So as you can see, it's slate blue, blue and brown on plum. It's not much to speak about here. It's abstract. Rothko said that these objects represent well human figures, and usually they were mostly meant to be tragedies. So he didn't like when people bought his art for the wrong reasons to have up in their office or something like that, or to parade around. It was meant to be something deeper than that, and he didn't feel like there people were getting it. So as time went on, he went to darker and darker palettes. So into the next one, we see that it's just black on gray. To me, it looks like gray on black, but it's just black on gray. So, yeah, this is another Rothko. Just by you could tell by the rectangles of color, and like I said, in his later life, in his later works, they get darker and darker to show, to more easily convey the tragedy that he's trying to make. Um, Abstract expressionist art's effects on the world. I couldn't find too much about this, but one of the main things that it did was move the focus of the art world from Europe to New York. This is abstract expressionism happened in New York. It gained worldwide I can't worldwide recognition, and it brought that fame and recognition back to New York. And then yeah, here's the works cited and the citations for images, and that's the end.